All right, guys, welcome. Musky Road Rules Podcast, episode number 215. Guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. We've got a pretty good show here tonight. If it wasn't for Tony, it would be a great show. So, yeah, we're going to be talking to a few guys up here in Minnesota tonight. But before we get going, tonight's show is brought to you by Thorne Brothers. Make sure for all your musky tackle, all your musky fishing needs, check out Thorne Brothers, whether it be rods, reels, baits, you name it. Check out Thorne Brothers and the Fly Anglers. I've been using the Thorne Brothers custom rods now for a couple years, and I'm telling you what, the 10-footer that they make has absolutely changed the way I fish. I'm able to figure eight bigger. I'm able to figure eight a lot easier. It's easier to throw the baits. I mean, they do just a great job with those rods, along with all the custom colors that they have and the bait building supplies. I build a lot of my own bucktails, and you know, I love all the stuff they got hanging on the wall there. I mean, just a ton of good stuff. Tony, what's your impression of Thorne Brothers? Be nice.
They're pretty nice guys for Thorne Brothers. Not bad. Not bad for some Minnesota.
Not bad for some northern folks, huh, Tony?
That's right. You guys you've always taken care of me with questions, electronics. I know you guys specialize in electronics, and you're definitely a place to go when somebody's looking to buy something.
Yeah, make sure you check them out, guys, at thornebros.com. Again, thornebros.com. Check them out there on the web. And for all your musky fishing and ice fishing's coming up here, guys, in Minnesota and all across the north. And don't forget the Christmas presents there for the musky guy in your family. So make sure you check that out. Also, if you want to text us, we'd love to get the text from you. You can text our text line at 606-776-6570. Again, 606-776-6570. And the text line sponsored by Lungin Lures. LunginLures.com, makers of the 22 short, 22 long, 22 SS, the chubby crankbait. But the real kicker for them now is they've got the Alley Cat line of lures with the little LP and the Stray Cat models crankbaits. Make sure you check those out at LunginLures.com. I'm your host, Gregg Thomas, along with my co-host, Tony Radio Face Grant. On the line right now, we've got Kurt Hansen from Thorne Brothers, the co-owner of Thorne Brothers, the Big Cheese. And we've also got on the line Eric Bakke. Did I say that right? Eric?
Yep, you said that right.
Okay, good.
I thought it was hockey.
Hockey, Bakke, sake. I liked a good sake. I had too much of the sake the other night, and I bought pull tabs for everyone sitting in the bar, and no one won.
Rich, you got money?
Oh yeah, and nobody won.
Truck payments, so you got plenty of money.
Exactly. Hey, I'm making truck payments now. The repo man is not chasing me down. It's all a good thing. But Eric, the reason we've got him on tonight is it just got certified about 2 weeks ago. He has the new catch and release state record at 58 1/4 inches.
That's a big.
For Minnesota, out of Lake. Is it out of Lake Mille Lacs? Am I allowed to say that? I just said it.
No, that's public knowledge. You can't.
What'd you say, Tony?
So it came out of Little Wolf.
Little Wolf, yes. Eric? Let's talk about this a little bit. That's a truly giant fish. One of the biggest that ever registered, released in the state. Let's just start from the beginning there. When did you catch that fish?
Well, first off, thanks for having me on, guys. It's always fun to talk about big fish. This was a pretty special one. But I was caught June 11th, back in the spring.
Nice. So it took a while to get it registered?
It did. There was a few things I wanted to figure out. Just try to get a few of my ducks in rows before I did it. And I also wanted to kind of protect the fishery a little bit, just delay. I didn't plan on delaying 3 months, but I was waiting for the copyrights to all my photos and all that, trying to at least make sure Facebook and YouTube didn't own all of it. But working with the government, it took much longer than I anticipated. But it worked out exactly the way it should. So it came out right when it's time to go chase those big girls, and we can keep catch and release in the front of our minds.
All right. Now, Eric, you caught that out of Lake Mille Lacs. How long, well, for one, how long you been muskie fishing?
I have been muskie fishing. Well, I grew up on Lake Plantagenet, and somehow I had a cabin up there since I was 1. Somehow I didn't catch one until I was 25. First one was 53 with my mother, and let's just say hook, line, and sinker.
I had a different experience with my mother. It was not a 53, and it was a crappie, and both of us wanted to go in. Well, that's pretty awesome. Now, did your mom get you started muskie fishing or what?
No, I just happened to. I was such a multi-species fisherman when I started. I started catching perch off my point, and I probably caught 100,000 of them. Probably got the same perch 100 times a year. But it just kind of graduated into that. And like I said, I wasn't really looking to catch them necessarily. I was just looking to stop getting yelled at for some stuff I was doing. So I just went in my boat and just went and got lost for a few hours. And I just had my mom came with me one night and threw a black harasser as far back as I could, put the motor in gear, and next thing you know, the rod bent over, and it was a big one, and she was with, and by the end of it, she said, "Why are you yelling at me?" Quit yelling at me. And I'm like, "Well, we're not going to kill this fish. Hurry up." It's the first time I ever touched one, so let's just say I was pretty excited. But she worked with me, and we got it done, and in the next 17 days, I caught 12 more between 46 and 48. And I didn't really think about bass or walleyes too much after that.
Nice. So that was you caught that fish trolling.
Yeah, trolling.
That's pretty cool, able to get something like that. And then, so what got you, so how long have you been fishing Lake Mille Lacs?
Well, Mille Lacs and I have had a different relationship. First, I went out there fishing walleyes when I was at St. Cloud State, and I went out there with a buddy of mine, a walleye fisherman, Troy, and we were in a 16-footer, and the wind came up when we were in the middle of the lake, and I promised myself I'd never go back out there until I was in a boat that I knew I wouldn't sink in. So
I've made that promise myself.
Great fisherman, Troy Ron, actually, walleye guy, and but he introduced me to it, and then it took me another, I think, I went out there with Brett Erickson again probably 6 years ago. So I've just really been fishing muskies up there for 6 years, probably pretty hard for the last 2 to 3. But like I said, I've fished so many different places. I love Canada. I know you're in Canada, Gregg.
Mm-hmm.
I love Canada. I love Minnesota. Just chasing big fish wherever they swim. So I'm lucky to be able to do that.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. Why don't you give us a rundown of how the catch went, and if you don't care, you can say as many or little details as you want, but maybe give us a rundown on how the catch went.
Sure. Well, the day started pretty slow. We started about 5:30 in the morning, myself and my partner John Blood, and the muskie dog buddy, and he was pretty excited. It was the day reminded us of one that we caught. We had 4 rips in 90 minutes a couple years ago. So we were there at 5:30 in the morning, and he's not a guy that wakes up very early, so I knew he was pretty jacked up. But we started trolling, just knew that it was going to happen, and for the first 4 or 5 hours, didn't even mark one on the Humminbird side imaging. Finally, we marked one, kind of, is it not? Maybe it's a pike, and well, at least maybe we have something to come back to, and then kept going, and, there's not really spots out there. They're just big big areas, and about 11 hours into trolling that day, we were feeling relatively down, but we finally marked one that was definitely a muskie, and we saw that, and it was off the bottom, and it was an active fish, so we were pretty excited. Drove around it a few times, gave it a few opportunities to eat a bait, and it decided that wasn't the time. But moon was in 45 minutes, so we kept trolling, and came back on the moonrise, I believe, and about 5:30. I pulled in. I switched my lure to one of my my favorite headlocks that I've got. That I was able to. So I work for Duff. I make blanks for Duff. I do a certain percentage of his stuff. So I've been fortunate to he's let me kind of build a few of my own. It's his design, his thing, but this one is a pretty special one. It's called Squash. The lure itself has a heck of a story behind it, but was able to put that on. I try to limit his time in the water, and my buddy John put one on that he's caught quite a few fish on. So we dropped on the spot, the mark, again, so far off structure, not on a break line, none of that stuff, just, out there, and dropped in on it, drove around the mark a few times, really didn't see anything, didn't mark it, and I'm looking at John saying, well, what do you want to do? It's the only fish we've really seen. You want to cast at her? And he goes, yeah, my ass hurts. I want to cast. Yeah, that'd be great. I'm like, okay. So he reeled his in, I reeled mine in, I put it in neutral. He went up front, dropped the trolling motor down, grabbed his rod, took a huge cast. I started putting down my cell phone, putting all my snacks down, those kind of things, and kind of reached over. I got a salty right next to one of those rod holders right next to the driver's seat, and cranked the rod handle a couple of times. That's something Duff taught me. It's like, it's just something it's like setting the hook on a fish. You just gotta, rod handles up, and then you gotta crank it down a couple of times. And I cranked it twice, and all of a sudden the rod loaded up, and picked her out of the rod holder, and I got her. So started yelling, I got her. And John said that he looked back, and the thing looked like a tarpon in the water. Kind of came up, and I didn't see that happen. But I was too worried about trying to get my rod around the bimini top that I have on my boat. So I either had to hand the rod around this steel rod, or I had to run around my boat. And those of us that are musky fishermen, usually we like to run around our boat a lot. So I bolted out of the little cockpit area, and done it a lot in my life. And this time, unfortunately, I hip checked the bimini, and it kind of sent me left, which is the lake, with the fish pulling on the other end. And luckily for me, I was able to reach back and grab the bimini, and it was strong enough to keep me in the boat. Unsnapped a couple snaps on the other side, but like I said, constructed well by a buddy of mine who custom made it for me, guy. And so stayed in the boat, got to the back in my spot right next to the motor, and the fish stayed deep for me. I never once did see it until it came up next to the boat, and like I said, stayed deep the whole time. Relatively quick fight. I've had a lot of people ask, how long was it? How long was it? I'm like, under 2 minutes. And they're like, seriously? It's that big a fish under 2 minutes? And I'm like, when you're prepared for it and you're doing it, you want to minimize it as much as possible, because, the fight just, because you never know what can go wrong. And, yeah, John got back, cranked his stuff in there, took his time. He said he was talking to himself the whole time, make sure that we don't screw this up. This is a good one. And he got back there and was telling Buddy to get out of the way of the dog, because when the fish bite and it's time to catch him, he's right there too. He's just as excited as we are. So John was ready, and yeah, just an absolute perfect net job, nothing but net, and came right up and got it in there. No leaner, no nothing. And next thing you know, it's in the net, and we're just kind of looking at it like, Jesus, what is that? I think we just met a queen, but didn't really know until we pulled it out of the net, and it was still kind of in the net. And like, wow, that's a pretty good one. And then put it on the board. And John and I are tournament fish together. We fish a lot of the Musky tournaments here in town, just amateur tournaments. And so I'm lucky to have a partner that knows how to take the right pictures and do the right thing. And this is what you do, and this is how we do it. We just have our way, a system of doing it. And got it on the board, and had the head and the jaw right up against the bump board. I'm like, how long? And he goes, 58. I'm like, what? And 58 and a quarter. I'm like, seriously? And I looked down. I'm like, I was a little disappointed I didn't get to 60, but that's always been one of my goals. Like, I want one to clear the board, but I just come in like, get the right pictures. Let's make sure you do it. And he took the pictures, and he was snapping pictures the whole time. And we took a quick picture. I was sitting on the motor, as everybody, it seems across the country, since it's been on national news, has seen. And yeah, we're able to get her back in the net, make sure everything was good. But luckily, it was a calm day, so we weren't getting blown all over the place. She was just able to recoup there. And yeah, I'd say after a couple, maybe 2 more minutes, she was able to she had her strength and was able to give me the kick. Right? And there's a video that's out there too of the release, and she was able to give that kick right over the net. That's all like when you're like, okay, she rated herself. That's exactly what we're looking for. And so she stayed on the surface for about, I'd say, 3-4 minutes, and then finally gave us a big wave goodbye. Unfortunately, I didn't get a little video of that, but we stuck with her for a while. We drove by it with the side imaging and kind of got one over the top, and I'm like, you see that mark right there, John? He's like, yeah. He's like, that's what a 58 1/4 looks like on here. So that's what we're looking for. That's bigger. You got to use those opportunities. And she sat probably 10 to 12 foot down for, a good 10, 15 minutes, and then she kind of disappeared on us. So it was pretty neat to be around hours of boredom, followed by sheer seconds of panic, and then you get to be around her for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then go find another one for hours and hours and miles and all that stuff. So yeah, so that's the story of that fish.
That's pretty wild. Well, I tell you, that is a giant fish, and one that I'm sure a lot of guys are looking for right now. How has your year on Mille Lacs been?
Unfortunately, I haven't been able to spend as much time as I've wanted to out there, but there's the first, I think John caught 2 casts into the season, a 45. That was maybe the ugliest muskie you've ever seen in your life, just beat up in the shallows. So that's how easy it can be in Mille Lacs. But then I think maybe we put a total of maybe 15 days out there, and that's really the only 2 we've got. So, but when you catch some fish like that, you're not really, the muskie gods don't usually just, give you another one, or might take a little bit before we stab another one or get to have another meeting. But just got to keep going out there and putting in your time, because it's a failure sport, right? 99.9% of the time you throw your lure out there, you're not going to catch one. But when you do, and that's what it's all about. Can't catch them from the couch.
Sure. That's pretty amazing.
Eric, do you think that fish is that deeper there, recouping from the spawn, or what's your thoughts on that? Because it couldn't have been too far spawned, right, or wrong?
Yeah, I think it's I think the muskies up here go through a couple spawns. I think 2 different spawns. So one of the 2, or maybe she's big enough where she just doesn't do it anymore. Who knows? Just absorb those effects. That's actually probably the best thing for her. A lot of energy, don't get beat up, all that stuff. So it was early in the year, and we did have a late spring. So, I'm not exactly sure why, but there's just some things that we've, me and some of my fishing buddies that we fish, just at certain times of the year, we try to chase just some big queens out there, and there's not many of them, but you just try to find some areas that they think they're going to or coming from, or where they might be, and luckily enough, the last few years we've been able to stumble into a couple of them.
So on that one, Eric, you were trolling, and then you had stopped, and so the lure was floating up.
Yeah, I don't think it broke the surface. So yeah, it was a 12-inch headlock, black rice headlock. Like I said, that I gave to my buddy, and he ended up giving it back to me to fix, and I never fixed it. I just kept using it, and they kept catching fish. So, but yeah, I think that lure, it's a headlock, so a matlock floats a lot quicker, and a headlock rises a little bit slower. So, who knows how far from the surface it was, but yeah, I'm sure it was slowing down, floating to the top, and then that cranking it down again just kind of reinitiated it. So whether that fish came off the bottom or was following it for a while, or who knows? Who knows what was going, but that obviously was a trigger that was able to allow me to have a chance to get a fish like that into the net.
That's pretty amazing. What on the headlocks and stuff? I mean, there's 3 different eyelets that you can choose from. Is there one that you think is your favorite?
Honestly, it just depends on the bait itself, because all these are handmade baits. So whatever. And I've been asked, what are you looking for then? And honestly, I don't really know what I'm looking for. I just know that I start the front and I do it for an hour. I'll troll for an hour, see what it is, troll for an hour. And then if I mark a fish, put it by a few fish, then I'll bring it in and go to the middle. And then go a little bit, and just kind of keep tinkering with that and line out. Does it go to the left more? Does it go to the right more? What is it that makes that tool work? And then I just kind of take little notes and say, okay, that this bait is this, and it's a front eyelet. And once that bait gets eaten, then I usually don't change that pin location. Like, that's the pin location for that bait that's got eaten. So
cool.
That works. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's a good deal. Kurt, are you still there? Are you asleep? What are you doing?
I'm still here. I'm listening. I'm taking it all in.
You're taking it all in. Do you have your notes there?
Yeah.
It's just like
I'm
a
taking
court
it all
reporter.
in. I'm thoroughly impressed with Gregg's questions.
I'm a great questioner. I'm a great questioner. What, Kurt? Why don't you ask one?
Why don't I ask one?
Yes.
So we were lucky enough to have Eric at the store telling the story, and Tucker, our media guy, did a little video of it and everything. So I've been lucky enough. I'm just taking it in as the second time.
Kurt, where are you at? You sound like you're underwater.
I'm in my house.
Are you underwater? What is that noise? Tony, is that you?
I bet that's Tony.
Tony, are you even there?
I'm on mute. Can't be me.
Tony accidentally dropped his phone and his drink.
No, and I had it on mute. Don't blame that stuff on me.
I don't know. It sounded like somebody was. It sounded like we were at a rave.
At a rave?
Yes.
On a Wednesday night.
A Wednesday night. Most people in DL, the raves get really big on Wednesday nights. That is
Zorba's?
Yeah, at Zorba's. The raves on Wednesday nights are pretty. They're pretty epic. So I'm actually leaving for one after I'm done here.
All right.
Well, Eric, I tell you what, buddy, that is a absolute huge fish. Congratulations. I'm glad to see a few fish in Mille Lacs still swimming around, and I'm sure I haven't heard of much. Anybody heard of anything here recently? I haven't. I've kind of been out of the loop a little bit, but has there been anything giant caught there yet this fall, or?
I've heard of a couple fish that casting's still been going on, a couple, but it's such a low density. Maybe there's who knows how many fish are in there. I think that's a top 10 fish out there for sure. I don't know what number it is, but there will be. There's no question. Again, people trying not to probably publicize it right away just to protect that fishery because they are vulnerable at that time. But not a ton. But I would like to thank a couple people before we get too far. I know that we were talking about Thorne Brothers, and Thorne Brothers is on here, and so there will be a replica of the fish that's going to be at Thorne Brothers. That's going to be homed at Thorne Brothers. That will be created by Laxter Productions. Rick is going to do that. I know he did the catching the other state record, the official weight state record. So that will be there at Thorne Brothers, and so just really neat. Again, anybody that wants to hear that story or some of the questions Ben had, just you can go ahead and go to the YouTube page, and if you ever want to come and see that fish, it will be there starting. I believe the Minnesota Musky Expo will be handing it off to Thorne Brothers, and then outside of that, the Supernatural Big Bait stuff and the baits that he makes, that's all I pull. And like I said, I've been fortunate to work with him for a bit, and he's a wizard when it comes to making these baits. So trolling is a different game. There's no question. It's different than casting, but you just have to keep taking notes. You just have to keep finding a way keep yourself out there, and eventually it will work for you. And so don't be afraid to go out there and give it some time, and don't just do it the time around the majors when you just want to cast on the majors, right? Actually give some of your majors and minors to the trolling too. You'd be surprised at what happens, and just trying to keep your lure in the water. But catch and release is a huge, big deal. I'm a member of Muskies Inc., have been for an extended period of time, and they're really the people, after I caught those 12 muskies, that taught me how to handle fish. I'd never had my own boat for the first 10 years I fished muskies. I just was able to keep hopping in other people's boats, and they were able to teach me all the good and sometimes bad about muskie fishing. So if you don't have the boat, you don't have the stuff, that's not a stop sign. It's just a yield sign, and go find some friends that have that. So get on the water, enjoy your time, be safe, and let them go, let them grow, and allow somebody else to have another experience with that fish after you're done with it. So that's really all I kind of.
Well, now you're heading up to Lake Vermilion now, right?
Yep, we're on Lake Vermilion. It's muskie camp. Me and a few of my buddies, we've been going up there for over a decade. So we got deer camp, and then we got muskie camp, and a few others. So there'll be 6 of us chasing them here for an extended period of time. So try to stay until the lake freezes and forces us to leave.
Well, the way the forecast is looking, that might be sooner than later. It's starting on Friday. It's going to be awful cool, especially over here. I don't know about up there, but I would assume it's going to be pretty cool that way too.
Yes. I think Sunday night or Saturday night it won't be above freezing until the next week. So we're in the 20s for a long time, and close to single-digit lows for quite a while. So I'd say we're getting close. But Eric, I tell you what, buddy, thanks for coming on here. Thanks for sharing your story, and truly a great fish. And yeah, we do appreciate it, and hopefully we get to talk to you later, okay? Awesome. Thanks, gentlemen.
All right.
Have me on.
Take care.
Eric. Good luck up on Vermilion.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, Kurt, you there?
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me, or am I underwater still?
I don't know, but that was weird. I know that you sounded like you were underwater. Something sounded off.
Or an underwater rave, which could be a good time.
Underwater, yeah, SpongeBob SquarePants. I know that's your favorite outfit. I think that would be a good one for you. But no, that's pretty awesome. That's a nice fish. That's a huge fish. Have you heard much about Mille Lacs this fall? Have you? I mean, I haven't heard anything.
I'm with you. I haven't heard much. I'm sure that a couple of fish have gotten caught. I want to say, I think I've heard of maybe a 4-footer that I can confirm from somebody that actually got caught. And I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure some other fish did too, but it's kind of, we don't know. We can spend the entire podcast, Greg. You were there for the glory days of that.
Sure.
Place, talking about kind of the sad deal that it is of where that lake is at. But
sure. That's
we don't need to get into that topic. But that's kind of where it's at. But obviously it grows some of the largest muskies in the world. So
sure.
It's a pretty epic special place.
Sure.
Between Nolan's fish last year and then Eric's fish this spring, and obviously there's other ones that get caught, like there's 55-28s that come out of there every year. It's an amazing place, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's talk. You told me you just got back from Canada. Where did you go? How long were you up there?
You just broke up, so can you still hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Perfect. So we did a couple of trips up there. I went with John Nelly from the store, who you've met,
mm-hmm.
and we were in Monackey fishing. So Monackey is like the Winnipeg River, just north of Lake of the Woods there, and Northwest Ontario. And Northwest Ontario is just a beautiful place in the fall. It's quiet. The lakes are big. It's all big natural fisheries. Lots of bait, lots of life. We joke around. It's the way that God intended muskies to be fished for.
Mm-hmm.
because they're just beautiful places. And there's just so much water up there. I mean, you start to think about it. You got Lake of the Woods, you have the Winnipeg River that comes out. You go east a little bit, in Nestor Falls there, you got the trout waters, Pipestone and Crow, and, fly-in stuff like Rowan, and then you got the Manitous, Rainy Lake, Scott Muskies, go up to Eagle Lake, Wabagoon, to Norwick, up to Lac Seul. Like, there's so many places. There's millions of acres of musky water, kind of all pretty close to each other once you get up there. So it's just a fun area to be. And, fall is just always that time that I feel like musky guys kind of get the heebie-jeebies and get the feeling that they're going to catch the really big one, right?
Uh-huh.
So it's always exciting.
Where did in this last trip that you was up there, you just got back from, how was it? What were the fish doing? Did you catch any big ones? Did anybody fall out of the boat?
It was good. It was good. I personally do a lot of casting, not a ton of trolling. So we cast, big rubber. That new monster swimming dog from Musky Innovations, the real big one.
Uh-huh.
That bait was like, fish love that thing. They absolutely love that thing everywhere. Up there, they love it on Vermilion. They love it everywhere that I've thrown it. So that bait was really good. And then we still get them on mag dogs. We get them on pounders. But paddle tails have been kind of a thing the last few years, and particularly that real big one. But it is a heavy bait. It's kind of funny. I threw it for like 3-4 days in a row, and I'm getting sore. And I'm like, man, like, I'm getting old. I'm getting weak. Like, how am I this sore? And I do enjoy throwing 2-pounders. So I picked up my 2-pounder and I put that on just for like a couple of spots. And there really isn't that much of a difference between a 2-pounder and a monster swimming dog. I'm like, oh, this is a way bigger bait than I thought it was.
Yeah. Well,
this is a double X bait.
Tony enjoys throwing the monster swimming dog, don't you, Tony?
I love it. It's my thing.
I can see it being. There's a lot of things that I think are your thing, but that is, I can definitely see you tossing that. So did you catch any fish, or did you see any big ones, or any good stories or lies or anything like that?
Stories or lies or anything like that. So we got some nice ones. We got one really neat one out of Menaki. We got a 46.5 that was 23.5 inches around.
Jeez.
Just a very portly one. And then up in Lac Seul, we got a couple of 50 inchers and some other nice 4-footers. So it was a fun little, I would say. I think that there was probably 8 full fishing days in 2 trips up there. Got a couple of quick ones.
Yeah.
The whole owning a business thing does cut into fishing time a little bit more than I'd like, but such is life, right?
Sure. No, I get it. Did you hear of? I'm sure you have talked to people up there and stuff. Did you hear of any real big ones that were caught this fall, or?
I haven't heard of anything like crazy. A few years ago, I think it was a guy named Darcy Cox on Lake of the Woods got like a 55 and change by 28 and change.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that fish.
That's kind of the last really big Canadian fish that I know of from that part of Canada. There are huge ones up there, but it's definitely a harder place to get 55 inchers than like Minnesota, just the way the fish are built. And then Eastern Canada, so you go east like French River, obviously Georgian Bay, St. Lawrence, Ottawa, all that stuff. That you get a lot more of that really high top end fish out that direction.
Yeah, I agree. What at the store this summer, did you see any patterns of what people were buying, or hear of anything that was kind of the hot bait or anything?
So I would say here in Minnesota, fishing has gotten a little bit, region specific, lake specific, window specific. It used to be you'd sell.
Where did you go? What are you doing?
I'm right here.
No, you're moving because the phone goes in and out.
Oh, my phone might be poor. Or poor. I don't really think I have poor reception, but
Check your bars.
they look good to me.
All right, now I can hear you.
There's 4 of them.
Ooh, okay.
Out of 5.
Good, don't move.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, don't move. Start talking.
Stand on one foot, put your hand up, don't move.
Exactly.
But stuff is way more specific now, it seems like. So, like, it used to be you'd sell a mag dog, a cowgirl, a stomper, and a CJ spinnerbait. And you could catch every muskie in Minnesota on one of those 4 baits, right?
Mm-hmm.
10, 15, 20 years ago. But now, the Muskie Frenzy stuff is really good some places. And then you've got the Muskie Mayhem stuff, like their new offset blade stuff is really good some places. And then other places, it seems like they're ignoring bucktails and you have to throw a swim bait, throw it out, and reel it in. And then, I need a topwater. Well, I need a metallic topwater versus a more of a pop style topwater bait. So I think, there's less fish and the fishermen are really good. So it's more like specific. And I think that guys who are willing to continue to try different things and not just throw the same bait that they've thrown for the last 5 years are the guys that are ultimately catching more fish because, with the way the technology has gone, like we talked about electronics a little bit earlier, most boats have side imaging now. You have a chippable GPS unit with 1-foot contours. The spots and where you're fishing for muskies, there's so much information out there now where there's a lot of really good fishermen in the state. There are. And they know where to go and they know where muskies live. So you got to keep kind of changing it up because those fish see so many baits every day.
Sure. No, I definitely get that. Have you noticed a color pattern or anything like that this year that guys are leaning towards, or just kind of been a hodgepodge?
I would say a return to natural.
Oh, not really the bright, skanky.
Not as much
hoe bag colors.
Yep, not as much. Not as much on the glitter colors. Not as much on the colors that Tony's more familiar with.
So, do you have a section in the store that says hoe bag colors?
Hoe bag colors. I like that though. I think
please tell me you do.
That sounds like a good sports show section.
Yeah, the hoe bag section, and it's just filled with neon colors, a little bit of glitter,
neon chartreuse, and
everybody work there. Yeah, everybody that works there has really dead eyes. You can tell they don't have relations with their father. It's I like it. I like it.
I think that's great.
Yeah, I think you should. Idea. I think you should put Doug Wigner in that section and just.
He would be. I mean, I would say manager.
He was foreman.
That section.
Yeah, he would be
foreman. Yes, foreman.
He would be the section foreman.
Foreman Douglas.
Oh, that sounds so great.
But yeah, it's a lot of. I would say blacks. Black is a huge color now, and then obviously your walleye colors and all natural colors. But that would be, if there's a trend, that's definitely the trend in baits.
Well, what?
Hey, Kurt.
Go ahead, Tony.
Hey, Kurt. I know you guys are electronic gurus. Is there anything new coming out that people need to know about? Is anybody changing anything up or any new models?
So it was kind of new mid-season in the electronics world. They went with the LVS 34, which is the new live scope. You have an LVS 62, which is kind of it's a blue water unit, right? It's a big boat offshore saltwater unit that's you can supposedly shoot up to 600 feet and blah 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 with. So that's kind of new as far as electronics go. There, other than that, Mega Side Imaging is still going to have Helix Gen 4s and then Solix Gen 3s, the Mega SI Plus in that world. So the new stuff would be kind of the new forward-facing sonars, and that's it's a hot topic in muskie fishing right now. Obviously, forward-facing sonar is, but a lot of people fish with it, and so that's kind of the new stuff that's come out there, and that's been good and have had good luck, no glitches. People seem to like it. And it's kind of nice that they take the same black boxes as people already have in their Garmin units. So you just need to buy deucers for them. You don't have to buy the whole new kit, which is kind of nice. Saves folks some money that way.
Sure. That's definitely, a good thing if you can, if that's the way you're going. What about reels? Is there anything new coming out in reels that you've seen? I know, you guys move a lot of product there.
Yeah. So Daiwa is, they're still the same Pro Rex and Lexa T-Wing. They still have the older Lexa stuff. HDs and Wins as well, but that's kind of their new stuff. We've now had, so 2 years ago, we had a few Daiwa Pro Rexes out. This last year, we had lots of them out, and they've been really good reels. And then kind of the mainstay, the 400 and 500 Shimano Trinks is, I want to say maybe 7-8 years now that stuff's been out. And they're still making them. They're still selling them. They're still great reels. So nothing new coming there, but all kind of more of the same. And, supply chain's been a huge thing in the industry the last 2 years. And rods and reels and baits, I think, are going to be kind of back to normal this next year. But electronics, what Johnson Outdoors, so that's Minn Kota, Lake Master, Humminbird is saying is their goal. So their goal, people are going to get bonused on shipping 80% of their booked orders. So as retailers, dealers, boat dealers, retailers across the country, et cetera, we go and we buy all of our product in the fall, September, and then it ships next spring. So if they ship 80% of those booking orders, they're going to call that a success. So no reorders, no nothing. It's going to be another tough year to get electronics. So not hard selling anybody, but if people want to get stuff for this next season, I would, wherever you can get it, I would jump on it earlier rather than later.
I would get it at Thorne Brothers.
Well, of course, we always appreciate that. But if you got to, get it where you can, because it's going to be tough,
Well,
and we already have stuff coming in. People are like, I don't really need stuff, in November for my boat next year. But stuff is already starting to ship, but it's gonna go quick, and we're gonna have some issues on that again going into next year.
Oh, I'm sure. What? No, you guys do a lot of custom rods and stuff there. I mentioned earlier, I love the 10-footers. I've got 3 of them. Is that something you're seeing a lot more people go to?
Yeah. Yep. I think, we said it with 9 foot. We hit as long as we're going to make rods. I do think we've kind of hit it with 10 feet. I personally have built some stuff in that 10'6" range, and it gets, you kind of get to that point of no return where they're so long, they get a little clubby and heavy on the front end.
Yeah.
They don't fish kind of as nice. So, but yeah, that 10-foot rod, that has been our number one seller now for 2-3 years. I know you raved about it earlier, Greg. I love them. I think that it's one of the greatest things to happen to me in musky fishing in a long time. Figure eights, casting, fish fighting, everything. The hassles of dealing with storage and transporting a 10-foot rod are far outweighed by the benefits of actually fishing with one.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's what I tell people, and most of the guys that get in the boat, and I use them a lot in the summer and fall, and in the spring, later spring I'll use them. Usually early spring I'm using some smaller stuff, but most people are like, oh, I don't know if I could try, and I give it, and usually within 30 minutes of them throwing it, they're loving it, and they, it's something that they're like, oh, I didn't think I could use one of these, and most everyone finds out really quick, and depending on what bait you're using, I wouldn't, for me, I wouldn't throw a glide bait with a 10-footer, but if I'm throwing any kind of pull bait, twitch bait, bucktail, I love them. They're just easy, and if you're like me too, and you fish and you have a tiller boat and you fish in the well in the back, and you're not sending up on a platform, which I rarely send up on the platform, that 10-footer I can do just as good a figure eights and really catch fish that I don't think I could with a shorter rod.
Yeah, for sure. Right. So I've got a 690 now. It's like an 18.5-foot Ranger, old school one. And I had a 680 for a while, and I'm pretty close to the water on a 690 in the back corner there where I stand and fish off of, run the boat from. And in my 680, I was like 6 inches above the water just because of how those boats are made. And I felt like with a 10-foot rod, I could just make every fish that came to the boat bite.
Yeah.
Because you were just like, it was a continuation of your cast. Your aids could be so big and those corners could be so giant. It was just awesome.
Yeah. No, I totally get it, and I think that's something that's been really, really effective and really a huge part of it. And something else that you guys can do there, though, is, when you get those rods made, you can pick your eyelets and, all that stuff that you want on there and everything, and really fit it to you.
Guides are huge on rods, at weight and casting and everything. But I think in musky fishing, too, one of the greatest things is everybody seems to have a different handle that they like. You have foregrippers, guys who like to hold on to the foregrip, guys who palm the reel. There's guys who palm the reel who like the new palm style reel seats, who like the older style reel seats. They like a thicker rear or a thinner rear grip, longer, shorter.
Tony, do you like a thicker rear or a longer rear?
I'm just
I'm a leg man.
You're a leg man. Okay, just checking. Continue.
Yes, sorry. You totally lost my train of thought there. So that's one of the biggest helps with musky fishing is, you guys know this, you're fishing all day, you're casting it, it kind of sucks. Like, it's fucking hard work. And so then you can really just get that dialed in, and it makes it as comfortable as possible.
No, I get that. I mean, to me, it just helps out a ton when you're out there, when you're out there on the water. But, Kurt, how did you get started musky fishing?
So I want to say 12, 13 years old. 12. I was 12. And I'd grown up fishing. My dad was a fisherman, outdoorsman. So he always took me fishing. And he was a walleye fisherman. And we caught some smallmouth and stuff like that. And so when I was 12, I wanted to start musky fishing. Like, I saw it on TV. I watched Bob Basecomer catch a musky on a jackpot. And
oh my God! Have you been on his? Have you been on his Facebook page?
I gotta give him credit. Like, I watched him catch a musky on a jackpot, and I wanted to do it. Credit may stop there, but that's the credit. And we went to the Northwest Sports Show. And I remember we're walking around, and when I was 12, he was going to take me to Canada for the first time. So I'm like, I'm jacked. We're going to Canada this summer. I'm going to catch a muskie, right? I did not catch a muskie. He caught a 52-incher, which was amazing. But I did not catch one. But I remember walking around the Northwest Sports Show, and he's like, well, I've heard these Thorne Brother guys, like, they're supposed to be the muskie store. So we walked over to the Thorne Brothers booth, and we both bought our first muskie rods. They were 6'6",
nice.
Compre muskie rods. We got one Phantom apiece, one Jackpot apiece, and one big Eagle Tail. And those were our muskie lures. And it all started there. And then I started working at the shop 5-6 years later. And when I was 16. Yeah, 16. And the rest is history.
Nice. Well, that's
Hey, Kurt, shows, you want to tell everybody what shows you guys are going to be at?
Yeah, so we're going to be at pretty much all the muskie shows this year. So we'll be at Chicago, with you guys in Ohio, Milwaukee, and then the Minnesota show. And then kind of non-muskie shows that we do have muskie stuff at is the Madison Fishing or Wisconsin Fishing Expo in Madison at the end of February, and then the Northwest Sports Show in Minneapolis, too. So that'll be kind of our sports show run this season. We have ice shows coming up, but obviously we don't have any musky stuff there.
Yeah, when do ice shows start? I know you guys start those soon, don't you?
Yeah, next weekend is the first one in Blaine, and then the first 2 weeks of December. First one is in St. Paul, second one's in Fargo.
Wow. Ugh.
Yeah, so we got 4 muskie shows. And one thing, I do, again, I'm not trying to hard sell anybody on anything, but shipping costs are increasing and they're not going down. Obviously, we all feel the price of gas right now when we go fishing and when we drive to work and everything, and that increases logistics costs across the board. And shipping costs have been going up anyways. So we do a fair amount of deliveries to sports shows now for guys. 10-foot rods are tough to ship. They got to go on a freight truck. Big nets can be tough to ship, big tackle boxes, that type of thing. So trolling motors. So if folks want stuff and they're in a different state and they're planning on going to a show, they can absolutely call ahead of time and we can make sure we bring product for them. We do that quite often, more and more every year. But we're more than happy to help people out with that. And that ends up saving everybody money. And, you don't have to worry about somebody running over your new 10-foot Predator with a forklift because it's got to go on a freight truck or something like that. So that's another thing to keep in mind for people out there.
Well, that's pretty awesome. I mean, I know like our buddy, mine and Tony's buddy Jimmy bought that 10-footer at the Ohio show, then it ran over. Then he broke it in his truck driving home. So
I do remember this.
That's never a good thing.
It makes a good 7-foot rod, though.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a good sucker rod. It's really stiff now.
Yeah, I'm sure that it is. Well, Kurt, I appreciate you coming on here with us tonight. Before we let you go, we'll hit up another. Like Eric had mentioned. Rick Lax, who's doing the repo and is going to be there at the store. Guys, check it out, Lax Reproductions, laxreproductions.com. Make sure you check those out. I've got stuff done by him. Tony's had stuff done. He's been a great Road Rule sponsor over the years. Make sure you check it out, laxreproduction.com. And our text line, Lunge and Lures text line at 606-776-6570. Make sure you shoot us a text. Let us know if you think Tony has been asleep the whole time or has been.
I compete with you Minnesota guys. I just sit back and listen. I've been doing that since Hammernick and Luke and everybody else over there, even One-Eyed Jack. Did you know him?
I didn't know One-Eyed Jack.
He was quite the character.
He sounds like quite the character.
Was that Dennis? Was that Dennis's buddy?
Yeah, he's the one that got us on that shallow invader right there at Minnetonka.
Yeah, I remember you talking about him. How's the real quick here, Kurt? How's the Metro been?
The Metro. So right now, there's a lot of sucker fishing that goes on down here. Mm-hmm. People, you can absolutely catch them ripping plastics and stuff like that this time of year. It's actually a pretty good time to get them. But lots of Sacramento fishing going on, and guys are getting them pretty good. Our Metro fishery is like, I think it's one of the coolest things out there, just because of we got 13 lakes that have muskies right inside of a metropolitan area. Like, that's pretty unique, across the muskie belt. Very, very rarely do you have those types of opportunities, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes away from where you work, right? Just go out in the evening. So it's been pretty good. Some of the fisheries, just like everywhere in Minnesota, they took a little bit of a hit with some stocking stuff, but I got to give the DNR credit for the East Metro fisheries have been getting lots of fish. Forest Lake and White Bear and Eagle, those have been fishing really good of late. And Waconia is always pretty solid way west. And Minnetonka, actually, they're in the process of rewriting the muskie management plan, kind of rewriting the stocking here in Minnesota. They're kind of going on a lake-by-lake basis. And they're doing a great job with it thus far, increasing stocking. They're doing some really smart things. They have what they call a yearling program now, so they're overwintered fish. So they're coming in at like 24 inches, so it's just a much higher survival rate, which is awesome. It's a good way to do it when, you have lots of predators like pike or established muskie populations in lakes. And Minnetonka is now getting 984 adults per year. So it's a definite increase in stocking, and that just started this year. And we were able to buy some fish this year, and we put some fish, some fingerlings in Minnetonka. And then we put a bunch of fish in the yearling program, and so that should all be ready to go for next year, and Minnetonka should get those fish. So our Metro bite's pretty good right now, and I think it's gonna just improve. I mean, this year we caught lots of 28 to 34 inchers, which we haven't seen in a long time. So with the increased stocking and better program coming forward, plus those little ones, I think we're going to be back to some really good fishing in a couple of years here.
Well, that's a great deal. I mean, it's nice to see that going, keep those fisheries going, and you got to keep putting fish in there if you're going to, keep them as a viable place that they are. So
yeah, for sure.
But well, Kurt, we appreciate you having you on here. Tony, you got anything good to say?
No, I don't have anything good to say tonight, other than I got my grandson this weekend, and he is going to freeze. So,
I'm sure he is. Well, is this the first time Will's been down in a while?
Yeah, he is. First time all year. He's got girls on his mind. Learned from his grandpa.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Hopefully he didn't learn too much from his grandpa.
A lot of baseball, basketball. He's 13. What the heck? So this is his birthday weekend. He's getting a big one, but he is going to freeze because he doesn't take the cold too good. So we're not going to get above freezing Saturday or Sunday before 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh boy, that's going to be that might be
down Friday. So see what happens. We're hoping it'll get our culvert pipe down at Longbow going, and little flow going through there, a little protection from the wind, and see if we can catch them.
Well, there you go, and guys. If you want to, I'll be back down to Cave Run here next week. I'm coming home. It'll be nice to see. Been on the road now for 5 months, so it'd be nice to see back home, do a little fishing. Then, if anybody wants to do a little fishing, always shoot me a text or a call, or off the website, Battle of the Beast, or any of the socials. And it'd be a great thing. But I'm gonna let you guys go. And Kurt, again, buddy, thanks for coming on tonight. And I'm sure I'll be seeing you at the shop, or I'll see you at the Ohio show. Okay.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Go first. We'll see you there first.
All right.
All right. Have a good night.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Everybody.